Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
You fight everything nasty.
I don't remember that, but we got Chris.
We have met the enemy, and he is us.
I don't remember that one either. But was I not paying attention?
Mine is from the Swamp
Kia.
Thing cartoon. Kia, sorry.
Oh, I see. It wasn't from the... Okay, good. Well, no, that's good. It makes me feel better that I didn't miss it.
And last time I played at the end of our episode, last time we covered Swamp Thing, I put the Swamp Thing TV show there, and I got a copyright strike on our YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
For playing the Swamp Thing
For
rip-off of Wild Thing. Yeah, they have a tenuous...
30-year-old cartoon rip-off.
They have a tenuous claim to that song to begin with. So...
Oh my god, those jerks. Okay, but that was how long ago did we do our first Wild Thing episode? I mean Swamp Thing. Same thing.
Wild Thing. Well, we covered Major League 2. I remember that. That was a weird time. No, we covered Swamp Thing episode 45 by Alan Moore. That would have been like January 2017, so almost 5 years ago at this point.
Oh my god. And we haven't returned to it since?
No, and that was back in the day when we were doing our things like saying, would you read more of this? And we all were like, yeah, I'll definitely read more of this.
We were liars.
I mean, we did technically, I guess. Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long-term fans of the show have seen the liars that we are, and thank you for sticking with us long enough to see our redemption arc, I guess.
We're all turning ourselves into the police tomorrow, so
go
to jail, directly to jail.
Okay, so we're reading Swamp Thing. We're reading Volume 2, which is kind of like a better introduction to Swamp Thing. Maybe, I don't know. I really like the first one, but I don't remember it. But this is issues 28 through 34 of the Alan Moore run. And annual number 2 is in there somewhere in the middle. I think it's like 3 issues, then the annual, then 3 more issues.
It is just kind of the vagaries of how this is collected, is that Volume 1 starts really strong with the anatomy lesson and that stuff. And then it has the Floronic Man, which is pretty good. And then it has the Monkey King, which is not that good. But it does tie into this series because, listeners who don't remember 4 years ago, Abigail Arcane's husband, Matthew, was in a car accident during the Monkey King arc. And a fly flies into his ear and is like, I can make you live again. And he's like, what?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, I don't remember it, but they recap it. And so I'm like, I just believe that it happened. I didn't have to see it.
2017 Kia was like, this, I don't know where this story is going. And this sounds really dumb. And Chris is like, it's laying the groundwork for the next story. It's what previously on. Some of my friends read it.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks for catching everyone.
Yes, 4 years later, we're back.
So we're reading that, of course, written by Alan Moore, art by a lot of different people. We'll kind of call it out from issue to issue, but the main artists are Stephen Bissett and John Totalman.
Stephen Bissett is the regular artist, but he does the first issue is a fill-in, and then there's a flashback fill-in, and then there is a one-off that's not quite a fill-in. There's 3 of these issues are not Stephen Bissett.
The version that I read had an introduction by Neil Gaiman, where he was just talking about hey, you know what? Fill-in artists are important, and it keeps the books from being delayed, but also it makes sure we can keep production value high, and it's pretty cool.
Well, we'll get to it. This has one of the best fill-ins, I think, in comics history.
It's all very good. It's all very, very good. We're going to get to it. And then we're also, of course, going to read Scrooge Mcduck. We're continuing the life and times of Scrooge Mcduck by Don Rosa. We're on chapter 5.
Yeah,
amazing.
Halfway there.
Almost halfway there. But let's jump right into it. So Swamp Thing. This is kind of like a reset almost a little bit. The basic gist of his origin, and they recap it a little bit here, but he was murdered by some bad dudes, and then he rose up again out of the swamp as the Swamp Thing, and he was like, I'm badass. But it turns out, no, he didn't rise up again. He died, but just like the swamp took over his memories and stuff, took his memories, his memories,
Alan Moore had changed that concept, mostly to get rid of, as Chris, a genius of 4 years ago, pointed out to us, to basically get rid of the concept of the Thing from Fantastic Four being like, when are you going to turn me back into a human? Those plots are shut off because Alec Holland, human, can't be turned back. And it also then creates a new splinter for like what is the nature of life and who are you and that kind of concept. Because the plants are like, well, I have all his memories, so I am a living thing, but I'm not Alec Holland, but then I am him, but not.
But what am I?
Right.
What am I? And we might learn a little bit more about what am I throughout the course of this issue, these issues. So right now, currently though, Swamp Thing is not feeling great. He's hanging out with this white-haired lady whose name is Abigail Cable. She's the one whose husband is dead. We'll get to that later. Or not dead. Look, it's complicated. We will get to her husband later. It is very complex. Don't worry. It's actually not that complex. It's going to be fine. So it's not Alec, Swamp Thing, but she keeps calling him Alec. And he's like, man, I'm not Alec. Stop calling me that. I don't like it. And he walks away because he's kind of sad. And he says, he sees a ghost of Alec Holland. And he starts following it. And there's a lot of little flashbacks throughout this. We see him like digging a burial site, a grave for Alec Holland. Because he's like, yeah, this is what I got to do. I got to bury the Alec Holland. He follows the ghost to their old home and like sees a bunch of lovey-dovey scenes with his wife. What was his wife's name? Linda. Or was that a different? Okay.
No, it's Linda. And you can get confused with a later issue, but no, this
the later
is Linda.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, she shows up in the annual. I don't think you see her, but she does show up.
You're right. She just showed up there as well. And we kind of see how then their happy life got ruined because Ferret and Bruno and this other dude with long hair killed him, and Alex was gonna rat on them for something, but they planted explosives in his home and they walked away, and then he just exploded. Oh, so sad. Swamp Thing is like remembering all this, and he sees the fire, and then he sees Alec run into the water afterwards, like while his body's on fire. Like he's seeing this vision, and he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's where I went. That's right, I remember. Now I'm just gonna wait for this body to come back up." So I've got it. Kind of hangs out there, or no, because it's like replaying a memory. He's saying, "Oh yeah, I know what comes next. I come out of the water as Swamp Thing." So he says, "I'm just gonna hang out here until that happens." And then this is weird. I feel like I'm talking a lot here. Y'all it's like it's cool. The fake Swamp Thing. It's not the fake Swamp Thing.
It's just it's the early memory. It's a flashback.
Memory of the Swamp Thing.
Thank you. That's the word I needed. The memory. And the memory can see the current Swamp Thing as well, and it like points over somewhere, and it was pointing to the spot where his skeleton was. And he goes and he gets the skeleton and he buries him, and it's kind of sweet. He rips off a branch off of himself and uses it as a marker. So Alec Holland is officially dead and buried. Long live the Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
A nice introductory issue, I think, for this arc, and kind of reminding me. I was like, "Who is this white-haired lady?" I did not remember any of that, but it's kind of like, okay, it's getting me back in the groove here, reminding me.
We'll see. Yeah, hot white-haired lady who, of course, was sort of in the movie. They kind of combined Matthew and Abigail's character into one character in the movie.
Really? Oh, that's weird.
Why
would you do that?
Economy, I guess. Just be like, this one detective is after the Swamp Thing, but she's also in love with him.
I didn't mention it, but Sean McManus was the artist on that first issue, and
is it Sean McManus?
Did I have that
it says Stephen Bissett on. Oh, it is Sean McManus. You're right.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bissett's not on this one. This is a film.
And it did automatically. I would say Swamp Thing felt less monstrous in this issue, like more humanoid, like more standard humanoid in a way, as much as Swamp Thing can be. Maybe I'm just not remembering the old issues correctly, but I was like, you know what? He seems nicer and friendlier in this already.
McManus is more of a cartoony artist. Also, he draws the Pog issue later that we did.
Yes, or that we will do.
Yeah.
Yes. And I really liked it. And it does kind of keep that up a little bit throughout this, even when we jump back to the regular artist. Like, I feel like that cartooniness kind of like lives on a little bit in some aspects of it. I don't know. Maybe
Bissett is definitely more like, if you like Vertigo's Sandman books, Bissett's more in that style of
this predates Sandman, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, this is literally one of the characters is in the Sandman.
Okay. Yeah. It feels like Sandman.
It really feels like Sandman. I did not expect it to feel this much like Sandman reading through it, but like, yeah, it felt like I was reading Sandman. And don't even get me started when we get to Scrooge later. Oh my God, that felt like Sandman. Okay.
Even more Sandman.
Even more so.
So this is a major like historical issue also that we're getting to now, which is what are we on? I can't remember. Saga of the Swamp Thing number 29 from October
29.
DC said, "Fuck it, we're not going to put the Comics Code Authority on this." The Comics Code Authority was, the rating system that was put in the 50s that basically fucked comics. We talked about this in Tales from the Crypt last year or the year before. That basically made it so like good guys always have to win. There's no drugs. Just a lot of, because comic books, like video games, like every single new medium, were corrupting the youth until they weren't.
Right. Right. And so did we cover the Spider-Man issue? They relaxed it in the 70s when Harry Osborn did drugs. And then we had like monsters were allowed in comics again. But this issue, as we're going to get into, I feel like the Comics Code was kind of like, this is not for kids. Like this is pretty intense stuff. And they're like, okay, maybe this comic is for adults. And this is like why Vertigo exists, like this single issue. Not to put too much on this one issue, but I do feel like Vertigo probably doesn't exist right away without this.
It sure as shit doesn't exist without Karen Berger, the editor on all these books.
Right.
And Karen Berger, I didn't realize that. I was doing research like because this feels like Vertigo between this and Sandman and like shirking the Comics Code. I'm like, when does Vertigo start? And I didn't realize it didn't start till like 80 or till 93, so like 9 years after this.
Right, but even Sandman starts before then.
Right. I think core Sandman is pretty much done. Hellblazers runs for 60 issues before Vertigo starts. And
yeah, it's basically Vertigo.
But they were calling it, Wikipedia called it the Bergerverse. It's all Karen Berger's books. And they let her just basically like run roughshod and do whatever the hell she wanted. Because she's a good fucking editor.
Yeah, they're like, we're not going to put these books in front of like children's faces. This is only to be sold in comic book stores to weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
She's in some way responsible for Watchmen also, but I don't know exactly how. But
well, that makes sense, because that would have been a year later or a year and a half later, or something like that.
All right. Let's get back into the story here. We're on Swamp Thing 29, Love and Death. Important issue. White hair lady. We're going to learn all about her. So her name is Abigail Cable. Her husband, well, we're going to learn about her husband, but she is like on the ground, like clawing at her skin, all this kind of stuff. She can't get away from this terrible smell that's everywhere, and she's like ripping off and burning clothes because they've been infected with the smell, and she's like in the fetal position. The art here is like just fantastic. I was like, the art in the other one's fine. I'd be fine if it was just that one. No, clear killing.
I had to go to the print copy because reading it on my phone just was not like properly conveying the art or the panel construction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely pays off for the later issue with a bunch of like splash pages with the like curving text.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I had to turn my laptop upside down.
Did you really?
No, I didn't. I just turned my head upside down very awkwardly instead. So she's like she's dreaming, and it all kind of like she's remembering all of this stuff that's been happening to her, and part of me was like, has this stuff happened or is it a dream? But you're like, nah, this has happened. But it starts out as like a nice dream where the Swamp Thing shows up and he's like, yeah, you can call me Alec if that's easier, that's fine. And she hugs him and everything smells nice and she's happy. But then this dream shifts to Abby and her husband Matt. They're in the car. And Matt has 3 surprises for her. The first surprise is a huge house. That's amazing. How can you afford that? You don't have a job. She has a job they keep mentioning Elysium Lawns. Do we know what this place is? They mention it a lot.
Yes, that was when she got a job earlier in volume 1. She was working, and then the Monkey King arc, there was like something involving it's like a place for troubled kids or something like that, where she was working.
Got it. Okay. You keep saying Monkey King, and I'm not convinced that
It's not
real.
it's not that Monkey King. It's not the Jet Li Monkey King from the Forbidden Kingdom that pees on
No.
Jackie Chan.
That was the last thing on my mind.
Yeah, it was a demon that Etrigan from DC Comics showed up and helped the Swamp Thing fight. And Etrigan even references it later when he pops back up again.
Yeah, I think
he's like, "Oh yeah, my good friend, the Swamp Thing."
I like Etrigan might be the best character in this. So Abby,
Abigail.
You're right. Abby is the best. So yeah, she's like, "How can you afford this?" And they go, and the second surprise is his new job at Black River Recorporations. She doesn't learn what this place is, but she does like have glimpses of dead people. And then when she blinks, it's like, no, there's not dead people. Those are real people. What am I thinking? I'm crazy.
But these names sound familiar to her.
Yes, especially Sally Parks sounds very familiar to her. And she's getting an overall weird vibe from everything. And the husband is being like needlessly cryptic and creepy, just like, you'll see, like that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, fun fact, I don't, y'all aren't, either of y'all are married, but don't buy a house without telling your spouse. It's just generally a bad idea without consulting your spouse. Pro tip, marriage tip from an expert. Don't get into multi-$100,000 purchases without consulting
But
someone.
what if my spouse is possessed by some kind of ancient evil? Then it's okay, right?
No, well, you're the purchaser.
If you're it's only allowed if you're possessed.
You do get a free pass if you're possessed. Then you can do a lot of things that you whatever.
Okay, good. I do like, so she's like, then we went home. No, that didn't happen. No. And then it's like showing like that she's kissing her husband and they're like in the bedroom. And she's like, no, none of that happened.
But it happened. It definitely happened. She definitely slept with whatever this guy is right now. So she goes to the library.
It's also funny because this house definitely reappears in the Charles Soule run. I recognize it for some reason. This house comes back 20-something years later.
The house comes back. We'll get to it. Maybe. I don't know if I'll keep reading 20 years of Swamp Thing, but maybe I'll see this happen. The dream is... wait, is this even still a dream? It kind of still is. So she goes to the library, and she looks up a book on... What was that name she remembered? Sally Parks.
She was looking up a book on psychiatry, and then a book on Sally Parks just fell out in front of her.
Yeah, that's right. And she's like, oh, yeah. And it turns out Sally Parks died in the 1960s. She lived to be like 26 and killed 15 people in her last few months alive until the police shot her. And yeah, now she works with her husband at Black River Recorporations. Cool. And she realizes
serial killer.
Yeah, this is how she realizes that everybody is dead at this place, and it's really weird. So she starts to freak out.
She also shares a dream with Swamp Thing, Alec, or whatever you want to call him, where she sees him in like a field or whatever in the swamp, sees a dead bird, and the bird is moving down, and they don't know, like, the bird is dead. How is it moving? And it's kind of like interspersed with what's going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, you kind of get the feeling, the vibe that this bird has been reanimated through terrible, terrible means. And so Matt comes home after she's, hold on, I skipped something. What am I skipping? Okay. Yes, she realizes that her husband is also dead like these people, but she doesn't really know how long he's been dead. Cause just like, yeah, when did this even happen? But she just kind of like feels contaminated now by all this. That's what's driving her crazy. He shows up at home with all his dead coworkers, and they're gonna like eat her or something. And it's kind of gross. And then Swamp Thing sees this bug. So he picks up the bird.
Well, and the big reveal is not only is her dead husband alive and evil, but he reveals that he, as you would expect, is possessed by the spirit of her dead uncle, Matthew, or not Matthew, but Arcane. Mm-hmm. Her name is Abigail Arcane, her maiden name.
Oh, and she was related to Arcane. I totally forgot that part.
So her uncle Arcane is back, and that's why he says, just say uncle when she sees like an image of his like gross like demon body like above her husband's form.
That's disgusting.
It's easier to track when you think of her name as Abigail Arcane, which is how I know her. I don't know her as Abigail Cable.
I thought you were messing up when you first called her Abigail Arcane.
No.
I was like,
no,
that's
wrong. It's a lot easier to see that story. Like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's her uncle.
I get it. I forgot that was her name. I thought uncle was just like, yeah, we're going to make you give up. We're going to eat you because we're zombies.
No, I mean,
they're not even zombies. They're bugs.
It's a double entendre, I guess, because yes, he wants her to give up, but also that is her uncle possessing her husband, which again, that's why the comic code is like, wait, so her dead uncle had sex with her?
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Hey, that's pretty gross.
Game of Thrones is still not a thing yet.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a bunch of white-haired people who are related to be having sex with each other. Not yet.
Well, even them, they were alive. It's not like the
they're not ghosts.
The zombie people. You know, you're not like the White Walker people from Fire and Ice. They're not. They're uncles.
So here we were at Chris. Okay with familial incest, not okay with familial zombie incest. That's where we draw the line.
That's a level even beyond what Ted Cruz would approve of.
I don't know if we glossed over it, if we said it, but Swamp Thing picks up the bird, and the bird is moving because it was filled with bugs the whole time too, and like reanimated with bugs. And so I think these are just bug people, and they're scary.
Well, it's this rotten world. I don't know how much he came up with this concept. It's definitely apparent in the Swamp Thing New 52 run. It's the rot. Yeah, the whole kind of like, there's the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the animal man has, and then the rot.
And I feel like it works so well because even if you've never, I mean, like the idea of zombies is kind of silly and like, I don't know, that doesn't really scare me anymore. But the idea of a bird filled with bugs moving around,
that's way
like
scarier.
That still freaks me out. Like today, I'm just like,
it's a really, I mean, because you're like, well, I don't even know. I didn't get the feeling that the bird was dead when he first saw it. It was just like he was trying to save this bird from the thorns that was still moving, and he was like, "This is impossible. Like, how is this bird still alive?" I guess you know the words, but I got to save this bird, and then the only reason it was moving is because it was filled with bugs. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, that's because it's like a real thing that could happen. Yeah. That's what makes it super gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hey, zombies are a real thing that could happen. You don't know.
No.
So we're now getting into Sandman.
Sandman? No, God, Swamp Man.
God, this feels so much like a Sandman issue.
Man.
This is a Sandman
Sand Thing
issue.
number 30 is A Halo of Flies is the name of it. We got art by Bissett is here, and we got Alfredo Alcala helping him out. But we got random people and pets all over Louisiana. That's where they're starting to like have murder on their mind, and just everybody wants to kill. And this is all because of the returned man. We haven't fully heard his name, I guess, at this point. Maybe we have. But he's looking down on Abby as the dead people hold her down, and he's kind of telling the whole story about all this, that her husband, Matthew Cable, was a bad person. But he has godlike powers to just create, and he would create women for himself because he could. And so this arcane thing was terrible, and he was this disgusting floating fleshless blob soul. I love the way this thing is drawn, and it's hideous and it's terrible, and I love it. But it was looking for a body, and so it was like, okay, let me just make this guy get in a car crash, and then I'm gonna make a deal like Chris was just describing. I had no idea it happened and that I had already read it, but he died in a crash, and Arcane saved his soul by basically jumping into his body and taking it over. So he is Arcane. You've got a dude in the shadows here. Really, it's a dude in the sky, but he's a dude, the Monitor, and he's watching the ripples from Louisiana of all these people getting affected by wanting to kill. And it's been so strange that the Joker has stopped laughing. Oh my God, can you believe it?
I forget this takes place in the DCU. I really do all the time.
That was I don't know if that was necessary, but I liked it.
I liked it too. It also makes it be like, this sounds like it's a world level event. The way you're making this book sound, like why it, And if we're to believe that Superman's around, like I guess we have to lampshade why. And the Monitor.
What is? Yeah, the Monitor says something. I don't remember if it's now or in another issue, but he's like, "Oh, this reading is like this is an 800 over 800 level event. A 600 level event would be like this and this."
It'd be like Demon Trigon. Above 600, we're dealing with superpower users and supernatural. Above 800, we're dealing with Trigon or the Spectre. And he's
who, of course, we ran into back in the Teen Titans issue. That's what's her name's dad.
Yeah, it's Raven's dad.
Raven's dad.
Oh yeah, Raven.
But the Monitor is the Watcher. I'm assuming this happens around Crisis, right?
Yeah, this is what end of '84. Crisis is in '85.
Okay.
So it hasn't started yet, but I think it is just like we can foreshadow that there's a guy in the shadows.
Yeah, but the Monitor is also like not onto anything. Let's just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, he's monitoring it. What do you want him to do?
That's
no,
true.
I'm anti-Monitor.
Anti-Monitor, jeez.
I hate that guy.
He doesn't watch shit. He doesn't pay attention to anything. Like even, but the Joker not laughing is really a really cool touch.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Again, so like this is stuff that to me is such like volume 1 and 2 of Sandman, where he's constantly like, "Well, what's going on in Arkham Asylum?"
Yeah, it was just like I mean, the storytelling. I mean, because Neil Gaiman, as we've said before, is famously very influenced by this run. But it's just like something was happening in this town, and another person was happening in this town. Like Good Omens is this way also. It's like, and then a person in Nebraska was affected by blah blah blah, and then it's
it's definitely the parts where they're like this guy decides to murder his wife is very Neil Gaiman-y, where it's just like a one panel thing of like evil is spreading kind of thing. That it's a cool idea. But yeah, this issue definitely ends on a down note.
Yeah. So Arcane and Man-Thing have this little confrontation. And the Man-Thing goes inside to get Abby.
The Man-Thing.
Swamp, Jesus Christ.
I know that they were created by roommates at the same time for different publishers, and they look the same.
I'm thinking of Man-Thing, Swamp Thing, Sandman, Fan-Thing, all of the things. She's okay. Anyways, Swamp Thing goes to pick up Abby. She's already dead. No, that's a sad ending to that issue.
Yeah, it's a good like final page reveal where Swamp Thing is like, how long has she been dead, Arcane? And you're like, uh-oh.
Yep. We jumping straight into the next issue.
I do like also that this issue ends with Swamp Thing in the winter, which I don't know if the Lin Wein, Bernie Wrights and stuff had covered previous seasons, but through this volume, we've seen Swamp Thing go through the fall and now the winter. And his appearance changes a little, ever so slightly, because he's a plant.
Yeah,
I like it.
It does appear to be happening in more or less real time, because later Abby is like, "Oh, I like you in the spring."
Yeah, it's weird.
It's a nice.
I mean,
spoiler alert. I guess Abigail.
She's dead. Yeah.
Her ghost says, "Oh, you look."
I mean, there's enough flashbacks and all this. Who knows?
But I do like also the next issue here. They've started adding the tagline at the top: "Sophisticated suspense."
Oh yes,
this
I love
sophisticated gentleman.
Yeah, Comics Code, get out of here.
It feels sophisticated to me. I'm feeling good about my choice to read Swamp Thing.
Smart. I am a smart person reading the Swamp Thing.
Fucking hell yeah, I'm sophisticated.
Well, I'll have your finest issue of Alpha Flight and your finest issue of Swamp Thing.
No, now hold on. So Alpha Flight is not sophisticated. It definitely does not mention that anywhere on the cover. Nowhere on the cover.
John Byrne wrote it. How could it not be?
It doesn't say sophisticated on the cover. How would you know?
That's what we're looking for.
So the next issue, we're back. Arcane is very proud of himself. He's boasting about.
God, he is I don't even know what this Arcane guy's deal is. He just wants to get a rise out of Swamp Thing. He's like,
he's a real
hey
piece
man,
of shit.
Hey, did you see how I killed her? Huh? And then he's like, nah, I'm just kidding. This is a fake body. Why don't you try ripping its head off? And he's like, nah, I'm lying. It's really her. You didn't fall for it. Yeah, he's a real jerk. So like Swamp Thing just
And-
wants to get Abby's body out of there, and he is just like walking away, paying him no mind. I would say this whole issue is almost an Arcane monologue.
Yeah, I do love when you find out it's such a great twist because Swamp Thing's just taking her back, and like we said, he's messing with her or messing with Swamp Thing, and is like, it's not really her, and he's like, what? You haven't even heard the best part. I didn't just kill her. I sent her to hell.
Oh yes, and he's Swamp Thing. He doesn't like this, of course, but he's not letting it show too much. But the Monitor is still watching. Also, the Monitor seems like he's unable to control himself, and he's like choking his assistant a little bit, using some powers.
What
very
happened
sad.
there? There was something that happened there. The Monitor died, right? And that blonde lady did something in Crisis. Am I misremembering that?
Oh yeah, that blonde lady was something. I don't remember.
I forget. We'd have to go back to our episodes on Crisis because I don't remember what happens.
I don't remember it at all.
Too many characters. But yes, so Swamp Thing goes back to his swamp, and Arcane's still taunting him. He's got like the trees have become like spooky Disney, like Snow White trees,
Spooky,
and he's like,
skeletons.
yeah, he's like, I'm just messing with you. I can kill you at any time I want. And then Swamp Thing turns to him, and what does he say? He says, "You have made a mistake, Arcane. Things have changed since you were dead. I am not Holland. I am Swamp Thing. I am of the clean earth. I am in my place of power. And you should not have come here."
That's pretty. I like that. Yeah, he's in
Arcane
his
is like,
place
"Wait,
of power.
what?"
Yeah, I think that's great. And so Swamp Thing just like beats his ass, and he does a good job of it.
Yeah.
He like completely. So what ends up happening at the end of this fight here is that Matthew Cable, who has been possessed, essentially like wakes up in the body and fights off Arcane and like pushes him out, even though it means that his body isn't going to survive. It's like, nah, I don't even care. This dude's too evil. He uses the last of his like reshaping, like creation powers to try and save Abby. And so he's able to like, fix all the physical stuff, but just before he can reach her soul, he dies as well. And so the flesh is restored and able to house the soul, but there's no soul to be had.
I love that panel. It's such good comic storytelling on page 20, where it's showing him he's trying to restore her, and there's like his arm is reaching out towards her arm, and there's like a tentacle wrapped around her arm, and then Swamp Thing's in the middle, and then the next panel is like her arm just lower because the tentacle is dragging her down to hell. Like, it's such good just simple storytelling where you're not actually seeing anything, but it's telling you so much where you're like, oh no.
Yeah, she's in hell, baby. Sorry.
Yeah. I loved, I mean, we kind of glossed over the fight. I love the idea that Arcane is planning this big revenge on this guy that he's like, oh, I hate the Swamp Thing, Alec Holland. And then he's like found out that like, oh, he's not Alec Holland. Like, who is this guy? He's like so much stronger and better than I thought he was.
And they call this is the first time I think in this volume at least they called him like an elemental, which is basically I guess he's like the plant god, which I don't know if Morris created this at this point or if that was in the Ween Writes and Run. I don't think it was because of something that's about to happen in the later issue.
No, yeah, I was gonna say if anything, it's closer to Man Thing in Marvel Comics. Yeah. But yeah, it's like he has now gone from being like a goopy swamp monster man who's like you can't hurt him to like now he is one with the earth. Like in his swamp, he has basically god level powers.
Yeah, he speaks for the trees.
Exactly.
He does. So yeah, we a really great issue here. This whole thing's been great. The annual here is the next one though. Annual number 2 of Swamp Thing,
which actually continues a story. It's not just an extra story.
That never happens, but it also is like a really good long standalone issue where Swamp Thing goes into hell.
And this is a double-sized issue that's awesome.
And I do appreciate the last issue said, like, continued in the second Swamp Thing annual with. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because that's one of those things that, like, sometimes we read these single issues, and I'm like, okay, when are we going to talk about the annual? Like, I was trying to, like, plan ahead. And this said, like, you're going to talk about it then. Here. And I'm like, great. Thank you. It's just easy for our show. Because sometimes
Makes it easy.
We'll cover it at the end. But this is a great story. Again.
Yeah. So we've got Swamp Thing who's trying to save Abby's soul, and he kind of realized he can separate his body from his soul and enter like the other plane or whatever. Right? Sure. Is that all there is to it? Yeah. And he meets Dead Man. No, hold on. First he meets a dead mom. Dead mom. I mean,
Dead mom.
And lower capitals, dead mom.
Lower, yeah, dead mom and her son. And then they're like, oh, you kind of quickly realize, okay, they're in like some kind of an afterlife limbo-y kind of place.
Right. They're in like the movie Ghost.
Yeah. And Dead Man also, he just got there pretty recently too, but he's like, yeah, I know a little bit about this place. Let's show you around. We can look for that girl.
So this is Dead Man. Because in our Jimmy Olsen issues, I thought Metamorpho was Dead Man, but this is clearly Dead Man.
This is Dead. Yeah.
This is Dead Man.
What's his name? Boston
Brand.
Boston Brand. Thank you. Not related to Betty Brant. That's a different.
They
spell Charleston Chew. It's not. He's not related.
What?
But you can tell he's Boston Brand because he's constantly got his Duncan.
He loves his D. He loves the D. Deadman runs on Duncan.
He does say he's got a big old D. You're right. That makes sense.
He does.
So they're walking around. They get some lights, and Dead Man's like, okay, I can't get any further here, but you can probably head this way and go see God. And he's like, yeah, she's a woman. Her name is Rama Krishna. And Swamp Thing's a little surprised to see that. But then later he meets up with. Was this the Phantom Stranger? I don't remember if they actually said his name. They said Stranger
a lot, and for some reason I was like, "That's the Phantom Stranger," despite me not knowing who the Phantom Stranger is. I was like, "I think this."
Yeah, me neither.
I was like, "How do I know?"
Is he an episode of Justice League Unlimited? I don't remember.
It's gotta be.
This is one. Vince, you and I that's 100% my experience with. So I was like, I know this is the Phantom Stranger, but I didn't know how.
Yeah, one of those things. I don't know what I've read of the Phantom Stranger. But it's somehow percolating in my brain somehow.
Yeah.
When you see him, you're like, "That's the Phantom Stranger."
That's him. That's him.
Like
I don't. I can pull him out of
when
a
I see him. I know it's him.
Yep, exactly. So they go to heaven, or at least a part of heaven. Swamp Thing runs into his, I guess, former self.
Alec Holland. Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Alec, how's it going?" He's like, "Good. Thanks so much for burying me. That got me out of being in that spooky area where I wasn't ready to move on. And now I'm in heaven. Thanks a lot." He even invites him. He's like, "You want to meet my wife?" And he's like, "No, that would be a little weird."
Yeah, he's real sad about that, too, because I was thinking, like, oh, he thinks that's kind of like his wife, but it's not. It's really that other guy's wife, so that'd be really weird.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is why he says no.
It's a real Ben Reilly conundrum.
Yeah. Or The Vision is another one where he's just like, "Oh no, I can't. I'm not the real person."
Oh, it's so sad. We then get to so then Phantom Stranger says God is a dude and says that Dead Man was wrong about it. I don't know. We get to a giant floating Spectre head. The Spectre is here, Jim Corrigan.
Which again is in our Jimmy Olsen.
reference.
There was a lot of Jimmy Olsen references here. There's basically like a section of the DC universe.
I forgot the Spectre was Jim Corrigan, red-haired cop, who is not the corrupt red-haired cop named Jim Corrigan from Gotham Central. That's a different Jim Corrigan, apparently.
Different Jim Corrigan.
And then the Jimmy Olsen one is yet another Jim Corrigan. That's...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad we get to explain the joke with the original Jim Corrigan. Although it's not even Jim Corrigan. He's the Spectre.
He's the Spectre now, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, she's in hell. And she has to stay there. Ha ha ha. But then the stranger is like, oh, is that so? Is that like even the rules and how they go for Jim Corrigan? And it makes the Spectre laugh. And he's like, it's fun. Go ahead. All right, that's a good joke.
That's all it takes. He's just got to crack him up. That's all it takes. He's like, who cares? Because they're, Phantom Stranger, who is correct, he's like, I don't think Arcane gets to decide who goes to hell. He's like, but she's here, so.
Yeah, so what do you want me to do about it? They go deeper into hell, and now also Phantom Stranger's like, well, now you got to go alone. But the demon Etrigan shows up. I like this guy. He's so friendly.
Speaks in rhyme. Does it all the time.
Hey, good job. And the Phantom Stranger is like, you can't go with him because the rules say, hey, you have to go alone into hell. And Etrigan's like, what are they going to do? Send me to hell? I like that. They have fun. They have fun. They run into some like real sick looking dudes here. There's Lord Muddlecrunch. He's mad that one of his servants is polishing his hooves with a rag instead of with his tongue. After all, they let him grow out his tongue again, so he should use it to clean his hooves. But it just turns out to be this dude that Swamp Thing killed as well. And Swamp Thing is horrified to see what's happened to this person. He's got his mouth over his hands like a worried grandma. It's so sweet. Then they run into Arcane as well, who's being tortured, and he's hating it here. And he goes, oh my God, how many years have I been here?
He's full of bugs.
Yeah. And then Swamp Thing says yesterday. Oh,
that was great.
Arcane might be my favorite character.
Arcane's like yesterday.
It's good. They keep moving on, and they eventually find her body. It's with Lord Rundlethrat, who's got this weird anteater nose. He's a real jerk, but Swamp Thing grabs the body, and he's like punching up demons, and Etrigan's like, damn, man, you're gonna like making it harder for yourself, just attacking everybody. But then Etrigan likes it. He starts fighting as well. He just wants to set some demons on fire. Arcane is like, they're running back, and Arcane's head is just like sticking out of a pile of bones and just like biting Swamp Thing's legs so that it doesn't go. Oh yeah, he's like, no, don't take her body, don't take her soul. That was like my main revenge, dude. Don't do that. Oh, so sad. But yeah, he bites Swamp Thing's head, won't let go. The demon Etrigan kicks his head away. And they're back. Hooray. And they're back into the real life. And she's totally alive. And she like kind of wakes up and is like, oh my God, what's going on? Everything looks so nice. Yeah. So really nice. That last panel too. It's like a full page, and it's just so nice and peaceful looking there.
Such a great issue. It's just cool, like the way he goes to levels of hell or the afterlife. It's really cool. And who his like ambassadors are through that. It's a really cool issue.
Yeah, it's a great issue. Although I do think her last line, "You're crying," is a little bit. I feel like Alan Moore hit it harder on the one where the Man Who Has Everything, where Superman sees Supergirl, who's died in his timeline, comes back. And it's like, why did Superman look so sad? It looked like he'd been crying, and like they don't get that it's because like, oh yeah, I just saw you die. A little bit, that one hit a little bit harder, but this one is a very sweet issue. And again, Neil Gaiman literally just does Sandman Goes to Hell. And I think volume 2 of the Sandman.
It's pretty dang good. Is that the one did we read that? Sandman?
No, we did volume
4. We did Sandman 4.
Oh yeah, 4? We did 4 for sure. Yeah.
Why did we do that? That feels like we skipped a lot.
So Chris could do volume 2 on Games My Mom Found, coming out sometime this month.
Okay.
Yes, I did do that one.
Fair enough.
So it's fresh in my mind.
All right. So the next issue is another fill-in with Sean McManus. It's pretty damn adorable. I kind of love this issue. It's called Pog.
This is what my quote was referencing.
This is before PogChamp was a thing, too. But Pog. And this was before Pogs were a thing, too.
Yeah, before I cheated at Pogs to win a Maximum Carnage issue off my friend.
Wow.
This is also before... I believe this is before Pikmin. I've never played Pikmin, but I feel like
it's before.
It is before Pikmin.
It's before the NES, so yeah, it's before Pikmin.
So it does predate Pikmin.
It postdates Pogo, which is what it's referencing.
So, you're right. I did read that in the introduction. Yeah. What was Pogo? It was like a series that Alan Moore really liked, and he just wanted to,
Yeah, so Pogo was a syndicated, comic strip. Children comics are what your grandparents used to read every Sunday to see what Garfield was up to. And
Hating
Pogo
Mondays.
was yes, he hated Mondays. Pogo was an opossum. He had some little friends like Albert the alligator. He had a hedgehog friend, and what were the other ones? He had they're all in this story wearing spacesuits. But he had a bunch of friends. It was very environmentally friendly as a story, and he was set in a swamp, so that all of that is like very much like why.
Actually, it feels like it ties in perfectly. So yeah, these little dudes are in a spaceship that looks like a turtle, and they're flying to Earth, and they crash. Do they crash land? No, they're just kind of like, hey, I think this might be our new home. And they're like walking around. They're like, yeah, this place looks pretty good. And Pog is one of the guys. He's a red dude, and he trips over Swamp Thing's foot. And of course, they can't understand him. He's saying something, and they shoot him down, and the rest of them run away. But then Pog makes friends with the Swamp Thing, and it's pretty nice. And they're like walking around, exploring the world and everything together. And Pog is thinking like, yeah, this could be our world. But then he sees, oh my God, this world has a bunch of bullshit too, like burgers and French fries.
Right. Well, first Swamp Thing, they free him, and he Swamp Thing is able to communicate with this guy. This guy's like, well, we had our own planet, everything was good. Yeah. And then we had basically monkeys who took over everything, and they killed a bunch of us and ate us and experimented on us, and it was bad. So we all had to leave.
That's terrible.
Well, whoops, you came to this.
Is that a reference to something? Yeah, they're like, okay, this is terrible.
So yeah, then they come to Earth, and then Swamp Thing is like, get a load of this, and points to a very busy burger stand outside of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Where like, a guy just has like 6 burgers like in his arms. Like no
trays,
no tray.
Nothing. Oh man, it's disgusting. We haven't mentioned either, but these things, these Pikmin, they talk real. I like the way they talk. It's like not normal, but you can make it out just enough, and it's like foreign and familiar. It's very good.
Yeah, it's just it's a bunch of kind of, what would you call it? I guess malapropisms or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like their words are interchanged where it's kind of hard to read, but you know what they're saying.
Right. So they're like, oh my God. And meanwhile, one of the other Pikmin, I keep calling them Pikmin, they don't have a name, but Bartle goes to make friends with some gators that he found, because he's like, hey guys, I'm gonna live here on this planet now. How y'all doing? We're neighbors now. And the gators don't like it. Honestly, I think this was the most terrifying panel of the week for me. When they show up, they hear Bartle's cry, and he's just like limp in their mouths. I was like, oh, that's not what okay. Yeah, anyway, Swamp Thing.
It's funny because I was saying how I don't think the annual quite landed as far as emotional weight. This one really did. I was like, shit. Yeah, this really sucks.
Sad. But Swamp Thing goes ballistic and fucks up some gators. They bury Bartle. Very sad. Then they, have a nice little ceremony for him. They get back in their ship. What was the name of their ship? I wrote it down. The Vivi Quinquereme. And they fly away. Interesting. Was there a reference to that? Something in that ship? Probably something to Pog.
It's a character from Pogo. But yes, very sad. Albert the alligator dead, killed by actual alligators. Again, like the way it's so like sort of childlike, the way that the dialogue is, where it's just like the lady has remonstrated her inhospitality, and frontmate Bartle is dead. We cannot abide in this place.
I need to study this issue, and I'm going to start talking like this on the next podcast. I hope y'all don't mind. But okay, 2 more issues left here.
Cannot abide.
Yeah, I like that. Like overall, it wasn't like anything important. You could totally skip that issue, and everything would be fine. But man, I liked it.
Yeah, it's very and it's a lot of. I feel like it's very easy to go in like a Captain Planet-y direction with that sort of stuff of like humans are bad, but like this is just so sweet, and then like it's really not even so much that humans exist. It's just that like this world is not for us.
Right, it's not the right one, and it's also not like, oh, we got to fix this planet. No, it's just like, no, we're out of here. we're not doing this.
Yeah, it's just like, this is just not going to happen. Alligators are mean in this world. No, thank you.
Yep. and too many burgers. So yeah, Swamp Thing number 33. It's called Abandoned Houses. Oh yeah, this is the dream issue with Abby.
Yeah.
So Abby's alive now, but she is losing her mind because everyone has questions about her husband who's in a coma because he's like still alive, but he is just in a coma. And they're like, yeah, you might want to move on. Honestly, she's already moved on because she's not in love with him anymore. She's in love with someone else. I wonder who.
It's a mystery.
And bosses
she
are
has a secret.
Is it a mystery or a secret? Oh yeah. But she like her boss at work is like, yeah, you're doing fine, but we're just worried about your personal life. Which is fair. But this is a dream, and she meets up with some weird dream dudes who one of them's kind of a real jerk and one's a little bit meek, but they're brothers.
Do you know much about House of Mystery or House of Secrets?
No, I don't think I do.
These are these are the two lead storytellers of two different big, or I don't know how big, but definitely long running DC books.
You're right. I never even realized that. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Chris, yes. I think you read House of Mystery or House of Secrets recently, didn't you?
I read a handful of issues, and this, I mean, we'll get to it. This is literally just pulling a story out of House of Secrets.
Yeah. It is like instead of doing a reprint issue, they just like built a framing mechanism to be able to like show that issue again, which is kind of neat. But yeah, they offer her one of the houses. Do you want the mystery house or the secret house? Because that's what all dreams come down to.
And this is Cain and Abel, who are in the Sandman series as well.
I got that despite not having read the Bible. Can you believe it?
There's some subtle clues to tell you that it's Cain and Abel. Like they say their names and then one kills the other.
In the biblical sense.
But she chooses the secret house, and he's a nicer brother as well, and he's like, okay, we're gonna do the secret, let's find the secret. It's gonna be this like a bracelet thing. I don't know. They cut to this classic issue of Sandman by Len Wein and artist Bernie Wrightson. And it's like it goes back and forth between talking about what the Sandman is like doing and thinking, but also it's written in what person is this? Where it says, "You are Linda Olsen Ridge. You just married Damien. You missed your last husband." Like,
yeah, some of it's in second person. So this is actually legit the first issue or the first story of Swamp Thing from like 71. We're thinking like this book is only like 30 issues in, and it's in the 80s. I guess, and I didn't do the research. I think they did this as like a one-off and then retooled it again in the 80s. Is that correct, Chris?
Not quite. So this is kind of a first pass at it as a horror concept. And it was in like it's only a 10-page story or an 8-page story or whatever it is. That was in House of Secrets. Then Swamp Thing really debuts in the 70s, like a couple of years later. Okay. And has a series that predates Saga of the Swamp Thing, which is the volume 2. Oh. So Len Wein basically sort of trial runs it here as like an anthology, like scare comic, and then retools it.
Yeah, because House of Secrets is like Tales from the Crypt, where except you've got this dude. It's like instead of the Crypt Keeper, you've got this dude be like, "Isn't this a secret story?" Ha 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 ha, and that's what either Cain or Abel is. Yeah, and somehow Moore is trying to make this match up because it doesn't match up. There's names that are different. I think the Swamp Thing is Alex instead of Alec, and it takes place in the 1900s.
Right.
And so they try.
And this was, this was a House of Secrets issue 92, which is on DC Unlimited, released 1971. So it is the first, it's non-canonical appearance of Swamp Thing, but it's the first idea of the Swamp Thing. And the cover is like the girl at like a mirror looking over her shoulder and sees the Swamp Thing, but it's not Abigail like at all. So when the cover for this issue, they homaged that cover and made it turn into Abby, and then made it into the actual Swamp Thing instead of the like weird, version 1 Swamp Thing he is in this with no mouth.
It's like when you think of Iron Man in the cave and the suit he made versus like Iron Man now. Like that's the difference.
Right. Out of scraps.
Or when we read about Groot from like 1957.
Oh yeah, that guy was weird. Yeah. So this story, it's pretty neat, but like we said, it's very similar to the original stories. This is the original story. Sorry,
yeah,
very
they
similar.
literally just have the second person narration. All of that's from the original. It's a weird, sort of murder mystery, like where you immediately should distrust your husband. Just in these old comics, which we've read a few, Tales from the Crypt. If your new husband is a doctor or the best friend, the best friend of your dead husband, like immediately call the police.
If your new husband has a job, it's probably an evil job. That's but
unemployed men. By the way, Chris is in between jobs this week only.
Hey, ladies.
I'm just saying, I don't have the power to commit women like doctors in the 50s apparently did.
Just for anything, too.
Yeah, but they're like, I'm going to say you're crazy and send you to an insane asylum.
What a fucking dating profile. I don't have the power to commit you.
Yeah. I don't have that power. Even if I had it, ladies, I wouldn't use it. That's my promise to you.
This guy in particular, though, is like a real creep compared to some of the other people that we'd read before. Just because he's like pretty blunt about it. He's like, no way around it. I gotta murder my best friend if I want to sleep with his hot wife. That's just how I gotta do it.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's the turn of the century. You can't be like, hey, are you guys like swingers? Like that doesn't exist yet.
Doesn't exist yet. Oh my god. So he gets like they're science people as well, science partners, whatever. Alex's lab blows up because that's how Damien's the new husband, made it all happen. Damien like goes into the lab to like, I tried to save him, but he's already dead. Oh no. But then he marries the widow. Cool. Now Damien is starting to think though that like Linda's on to him, and he's like, all right, well, I think I'm gonna have to kill her too. Oh, this is my favorite part. We just randomly learned also at some point Alex didn't die in the explosion, but he was like, no, he's dead, don't worry about it. And then later he went and he just buried him outside instead. Great. Amazing. He's like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to kill my new wife because she's on to me and I gotta look out for number one here. And so he goes to give her a massage, but he grabs a hypodermic needle. Swamp Thing has been watching this the whole time, bursts in through the glass, saves her, and she's like, oh, get away from me, monster. And he doesn't do anything, but he just kind of leaves. And he's like, oh, if tears could come, they would. Oh,
yeah, he looks sad and walks out into the swamps.
Oh, it's more like sad thing.
Don't give yourself another name to remember, Kia.
I can't remember any of them. It's Sand Thing, I know. Okay. So back to the dream. Back out of the flashback into the dream world now. And Abby's like, wait a minute. That's Alex's story. Alec Holland's story, not Alex Olsen. And we learned that Alec Holland is not the first Swamp Thing. In fact, maybe there are others. Oh my God. It's in times of need, the earth will summon an elemental warrior.
With very similar first names and last names.
Look, the earth is not very creative. It's like, we need a warrior. Look up Alex.
It's got one trick. Got one trick. But it's pretty good. They tell her, hey, you got to like take the secret. Go tell Alex. I bet he would love that information. Then the mystery brother is like, no, you can't. Those are the rules. The secret has to stay here. That's why it's a secret. So then he murders his brother because that's how they do. She wakes up and she starts to write down.
I do like, she's like, you murdered your brother. He's like, don't talk to me about murder. I invented murder.
And he's like, yeah, we're just doomed to repeat this over and over. Like, yeah, I'm doomed because I was the first murderer, but like he's doomed because he was the first victim. That's just how it goes. Yeah. And yeah, she wakes up and starts to write down the story, but then she gets a phone call and she goes back to writing it and she's like, what was I writing? I don't remember. But I really, really loved how the crumpled up piece of paper kind of looks like Swamp Thing's head.
Oh, it does. Yep.
That's like, I love that. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm always starting to write down the secrets that I learned during my dream, and then my cell phone alarm goes off, and I'm just like, what is it? What? I forget it completely because it's so loud. It distracts me from the spooky mystery I'm solving.
Oh, that's too bad. Maybe you'll learn some secrets eventually. But you got to write them down while you're dreaming them, even though if your handwriting is maybe a little messy, but you can probably make it out in the morning. Okay, last issue here, number 34, Rite of Spring. This is a very different issue. It felt really short, but it's a nice way to kind of cap everything off. So Abby's husband, still in a coma. She doesn't mind. No love there anymore because she loves. Are y'all ready for the reveal? Who does she love? She loves Swamp Thing. Aww, it's so sweet. And she tells him, she's like, I'm kind of, she's kind of shy about it. And she feels kind of stupid too. And she's like, oh my God, you're like not even human. This is so silly. But he loves her too. Oh, so sweet. So sweet. And they kiss. And it tastes like lime, but not as sharp.
Not swampy.
Not swampy at all. I'll be honest. I kind of want to try kissing Swamp Thing if he tastes like key lime pie or something.
Okay, well, don't just go into swamps and just start kissing like the gross like green moss and stuff, Kia. Just pro tip. I know you lived in Louisiana, but don't do that.
Now, what if it tells me it loves me? I mean, I wouldn't just do it with any. I don't want you to think I'm going to go around just kissing any old moss, right? It's like, sure, I'd like to try it, but
I mean, if said moss rescues you from the afterlife, perhaps.
I mean, if the moss buys me a drink, I'd be okay with that. So it's a very sweet issue. After they kiss, Swamp Thing is like, here, I've got an idea. Because she's like, oh yeah, I want to have sex, but we can't really do that. He like goes and sits in the water for a little while and produces some fruit, and she eats it, and she's like, yeah, that's pretty good. It's like a little weird, but it's cool that you're cool with it. But then she trips the fuck out, and the whole rest of this issue is just trippy awesomeness of them just like. I don't think I actually wrote anything down. It's just like it's one of those things that you just gotta like see it and see the panels and enjoy them and cool. Go with it.
Synesthesia, colors, and yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's my jam.
It's consciousness expanding LSD stuff, but it's cool. Yeah, their consciousness are joining or whatever. It's good.
Yeah, she's got a literal piece of him inside of her now, so it's romantic. You see. Yeah.
I do like when she like comes back from her trip and she's like, "Does this mean we're going out?"
Yeah, it's very funny. Very sweet. I really did not expect any of this heading into the second arc. It was like we've already said, but it was so much like Sandman, and it was just so much sweeter than I thought. I thought it was going to get more horrific, and while it did, it just got sweeter as well. So that's
it is funny because that issue. I guess we should get to our final thoughts. But that issue with Cable and Arcane just being like, I'm the bad guy, I'm evil, and everything's spooky. Like that's a good. I mean, it is very creepy, those two issues. But the rest of it is really not that sort of creepy. I mean, when he goes to hell, I guess that's creepy too. But I mean, there's plenty of disturbing imagery, but it is not a like cynical, like mean-spirited book, like at all.
Yeah. Vince, how about you? You got any?
I think it's
got
really
any thoughts?
good. I think, I think I've captured it really well. It's fucking good. I'm just astounded by like I hear the word Swamp Thing, and I'm continuously astounded by. I've read really good Swamp Thing books. Like the Moore run is good. Everything in the New 52 run is fantastic, and I'm just surprised. I love the art. It's got this weird organicness that I'm not used to from Alan Moore books, and it's early Alan Moore, so it doesn't feel like. I mean, we read 9 issues of Alan Moore, and it's not like as dense as the other Alan Moore books we've read, but it's so good, and he just comes out like guns a-blazing fairly early in his career. Just like really, really good.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this guy is going places.
He might.
He's got a bright future ahead of him. 1984, 85 Alan Moore.
He's He's writing the most sophisticated comics I've ever seen. Okay, on to
the
let's
most
get
sophisticated suspense. Will we read more of this in 4.5 years?
I want to say we should aim to try and read some more of this before that.
Before 4.5
maybe
years,
even
aim.
next Halloween is my would be a good time.
Nuke Face and John Constantine are in the next volume.
Yeah, Constantine shows up in volume 3.
Nuke Face.
Yes. Well,
That's
it
right.
says they're making out and it says next issue, the Nuke Face papers, like in one of those like ransom note magazine cutting out letters things, and I'm
yeah,
kind of undercuts things, but sure.
I was reading too. There was, I forget where this was, but I was reading that originally, and maybe this was even the editor you were talking about, Vince. Originally, the plan was going to be Nuke Face was going to be the second villain after the Floronic Man.
Okay.
And so it would have been like basically, they had like the Monkey King like 2-issue thing with Etrigan, and then they would have like 2 or 3 issues with that guy, and so it would basically just be kind of Monster of the Week stuff. And somebody talked them out of it and just be like, let's just do the like big bad that you want to do and like move on from it, versus just like seeding it for a long time and not having it pay off, which I think was the smart thing to do, because it kind of frees them from the format of being like a supernatural type show, where they're like, what's the weird thing Swamp Thing's going to run into? Where it's like you get the sense they basically break the rules of superhero comics after that arc, where they're like, we don't have to do that anymore.
Yep, they don't got the comics code, so they can bust up any other rules they want.
Yeah, alive or dead, the rules don't matter.
Excuse me.
All right, so episode 190, if we hold true to our schedule, that'll be Swamp Thing Volume 3. Cool.
Look forward to it. So let's jump into some Scrooge Mcduck now. When last we left Scrooge, he sold everything he had made for himself in America for, what was it, $10,000? Because he'd been summoned back home to Scotland. And he's riding home, like, in the rain with his... who's there with him? His mom? Why is she there already with him? I don't know. But they are getting home to the famous castle that they have, because the castle's in trouble. We also learned Scrooge now needs reading classes because of the Montana sun and the snow, the white snow. It all fucked with his eyes. Damn it! It's all Montana's fault. Hortense, his sister, is fighting off all these assholes from before with a broom that were trying to steal his land, the Whiskervilles.
Hortense has a legendary anger. I hope she doesn't pass that on to any of her kids.
Yep.
Who could that
we got a
be,
few jokes about that. So
Dewey or Louie, I don't know.
Donald.
Right.
Yeah. That's his
Donald
grandnephew.
Donald's mom. You can see she's Donald with a little bob haircut.
Yes. That was the ghosts all point out that it's like, wow, your nephew will be very angry.
So they can't afford the castle anymore. They've been like paying back taxes or whatever to keep it, and they've been able to kind of keep up, but now they're running out of money, and these damn Whiskervilles are going to swoop in and buy it up and burn down the castle and do something else with the land. But thankfully Scrooge shows up and he has some money now. Amazing. And he also, bad idea, Scrooge, but he admits that he was the ghost who scared them 6 years ago and turned all their hair white. Why did you admit that, Scrooge?
Yeah.
They grab a set of gauntlets, or just one gauntlet from like a suit of armor, and slap him across the face and challenge him to a duel. And their plan is that, hey, while we're dueling, you go steal the check for all the money, and that'll be how we're gonna get the money. This is gonna be great. So they're fighting this duel, and then like they make it out onto, what do you call it? It's like the balcony of a castle. What do you call that space?
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, with it looks like a rook from chess.
Yeah, a rook from chess.
Rampart.
The Rampart. Sure. I think that's it.
Could be.
They are like, Scrooge is basically on the ropes here. He's about to get knocked off, but then his sword like comes to life. It's energized or something, and it goes into his hand. And he's like, yeah, and he's fighting back, And then lightning strikes him and like demolishes the entire ramparts. Haha, just learned that word. And like hits him and he falls and he's in the water and he's drowning. He can't take off the suit of armor and he gets hit in the head with a brick. And Scrooge is dead. Probably.
The end.
Maybe. I don't know.
This was a weird long read.
The end. No, he is now like in heaven talking to, what was this person named? Quackley McDuck, who's like, oh my God, this is my fault. I'm the one who helped you with the sword. But like the lightning got attracted to the sword then, and it would have all been fine if Quackley hadn't helped, because the lightning would have just helped Scrooge win. Oh my God, fucked it all up. So he takes them to the tribunal of the McDucks, and it's basically just everyone playing golf up in heaven, all the past McDucks that are dead, and they're like, hey, we got to help this guy get back to the land of the living. And they don't care. They're just a bunch of jerks, like all the McDucks really are, and all they care about is like saving money. They're paying money to play golf here, and it's going to cost them. How does currency work in the afterlife? I didn't even think about that until now.
I like how you joked that this Scrooge McDuck was like Sandman, but
it 100% is.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Really is.
They go to heaven in both books.
And they meet all these McDucks and they're all fuck ups too, because the Quackley is like, they're making fun of everything that Scrooge has done wrong, but they're like, well, look at you, you bought crossbows for all your fighters, but you didn't buy them any arrows. Like, well, arrows were expensive. And like one guy just like ate himself to death. Jeez, come on, man. But they also rent a book from the library that shows all of his adventures, and they're like, they still don't care. Scrooge learns he's going to have a nephew. Cool. Then he also, like, they've already moved on, and they're not interested until he's reading out loud, and he's like, oh, looks like I'm going to become the stingiest person of all time. And everyone's ears perks up. Like, oh yeah, we got to help this guy get back to the way.
I love that. Then all the ghosts are like, yes, this is our descent.
This is going to be the one who carries on the McDuck name. And yeah, they help him get back to life. They tell him, I guess Scrooge chose mystery and not secret, because they tell him the dime. The dime is the key, so he's got to solve this mystery.
Yeah, Sir Quackley says, your life is worth a dime. And he's like, why did you say it like that?
Yeah. So he gets back to the land of the living. He realizes he can use his dime to like unscrew the bolts on his suit of armor and get back up there. These Whiskervilles, oh my God, they're assholes. So Scrooge shows up and he's all mad. He's like, give me back my money. And then they're like, all right, so what's our next option? Let's just fucking murder Scrooge. These assholes. Like before, at least it was kind of an accident that he was gonna die, but like, just straight up trying to murder him now. Thankfully, the ghosts show up and they scare him away. Thanks, ghosts. Good job. And Scrooge is like rejuvenated and ready to go back and make his fortune again. There's a nice little a rainbow, and it's very sweet. It felt like a really nice kind of end of a first arc for this. I don't really know what else is coming up, but yeah, it's a nice way to end this first little bit of the story.
Yep, and I do like the art on the last few pages with Scrooge coming back from, they think he's dead, and him like lightning strikes and he's like soaking wet. That's pretty cool. And they act like they're seeing a ghost when he shows up, and he's just like pointing his sword at them, and it's like, I know you stole that check. And they're like, how could he know this?
Yeah. And he also isn't quite sure how he knows. He's like, I just kind of knew. But yeah, again, another great issue of Scrooge here. So of course, next time, Vince, sorry, did you have any final thoughts?
No, it's good. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Was there anything? It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. All right, we're on to chapter 6 next.
The Terror of the Transvaal. So that'll be spooky for us, hopefully.
Spooky. It sounds spooky. I'm glad we got a little bit of like supernatural stuff. Is this our first supernatural stuff in Scrooge?
Issue 1 had the ghost helped.
Yeah, the ghost who.
You're right. The ghost
for Macbeth.
Helped. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, we'll keep going with hopefully some more spooks in chapter 6. Also, we want to guarantee some spooks, so we're gonna read Sabrina the Teenage Witch, number 6. through 8. Holy cow, we're coming back to this series.
It's specifically called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, number 6 through 8. So we, the first 6 issues of this, we loved. They were amazing. They inspired that whole Netflix series.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And then the series just didn't keep going. They put out.
Then it just became a Netflix show.
Yes, they put out 6, 7, and 8, and it just like never kept going. Supposedly, in a couple weeks, when this issue's coming out, the next episode's coming out.
I think it's the same day that this episode drops,
God.
the 13th of October.
Okay.
There's actually going to be a new issue of Sabrina, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I don't think there's. We covered Chilling Adventures of Sabrina in 2017 in October, thinking, oh well, surely we'll catch up with it next year. And it was before the show even existed. The show had 4 seasons since we last covered it.
It's over. 4 seasons? I thought it was just 3. But it's over now. I did see she's going to apparently be in an episode of Riverdale. Spoiler alert.
Cool. and there's a comic series continuing that TV show, but that's called The Occult Adventures of Sabrina.
What the hell?
But this one is. But Robert Hack is back for issue 9, which we're not covering, but that'll be published. But issues 6 through 8, which I don't know if there's a print collection of those 3. We found them through our library, and you can find them through Comixology and Amazon and Kindle and probably other ways to acquire comics. So,
yeah. Okay. So cool. We're gonna read it. Apparently, well, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next time.
I'm legit excited though. I've read these before, but these were like legit.
Me too.
Issues 1 through 5 are legit, like the first like horror comics that I think like really hit. Like these are spooky and scary, like legit.
So. Good. Real good. But yeah, I think that's it for the episode here. What else is happening? We got Vince. What are you doing, Vince?
Swamp Thing. No, it's not our introduction. I've got That Was a Game series on our YouTube channel. All My Friends Are Right Here. I recently covered Spanky's Quest for the Game Boy. I'm working on another thing. I think I'm going to end up doing Tetris 2, the game that dared to call itself Tetris 2. So that should be fun. Check that out on All My Friends Are Right Here on YouTube. That Was a Game.
I'm currently debating if I want to rebuy Tetris Effect on the Switch, so I have it portable.
I have it on my VR, my PS4, my Xbox, and I'm probably gonna buy it on my Switch. I just wish it was physical because it's like $40 digital.
Yeah, but also might buy Metroid Dread. Very excited about that. Chris, how about you? What's going on with your stupid minds? What games are you gonna buy?
We had Exit Wounds, Steven Seagal DMX come out last month. We will probably have a spooky Halloween title coming out. I also need to go back through. We've been doing this for like 10 years. We've done a bunch of spooky episodes. If you want to just listen to a spooky episode, like Ghost Ship, that's a good one. There's plenty of others. The Fog, that's a bad movie, but a fun episode. But we'll probably do another Halloween episode coming out here in October. And then, I'm probably going to get Metroid Dread 2. We'll see. I haven't yet.
Very exciting. We'll all come back with our status updates on Metroid Dread. Vince is not going to buy it, I think, is what we heard.
I'm probably going to end up buying it. I'm just dreading it.
This is the month for it, though, to dread things. All right. So we are, I think that's it. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I don't.
Any other new business?
No, I think all business is old business.
All business is old business. Okay. Well, Vince, thank you so much. I love you.
Love you too.
Chris, thank you so much. I love you.
Disparate Cuzzlings, let me embrace you.
Jesus. And listeners, we love you as well. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.